Companies big and small are using AwareGo's human risk assessment to measure the human risk factor in cybersecurity. This interactive solution allows companies to measure employees' knowledge and behavior across threat vectors such as phishing, passwords, sensitive data, and more. After completing the assessment, CISOs can identify vulnerable departments and roles and improve internal policies or procedures. Visit securityweekly.com/AwareGo to start your free trial. Can your incident response technology collect from off-network endpoints? Extero FTK Enterprise can. Endpoints are no longer located in a physical office, and organizations need a comprehensive investigation tool that enables holistic data collection and review. With FTK Enterprise, you can also scan for IOCs and MISP indicators. You can scan with Yara rules, and you can use integrations to trigger automatic endpoint collections. Visit securityweekly.com/Extero for access to their white paper, Incident Response for a Remote World.
Attacks can't be prevented, but they can be stopped. Modern cyber attackers have already made it inside your network, but you have the upper hand. Find and eradicate threats with ExtraHop network detection and response, and shut them out before real damage is done. Learn the advanced techniques attackers are using and how ExtraHop stops them with a live attack simulation. Register at securityweekly.com/ExtraHop. That's extra HOP.
Welcome back to Enterprise Security Weekly. Instead of the news this week, we've got a pre-recorded segment for you today. Bradley Barth, Director of Community Content at CRA, interviewed Zain Malik, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Ping Identity, about identity innovation, specifically passwordless and B2C solutions, business to consumer. So first, to cue up the conversation, we're going to share some of our own thoughts around these two topics. I know we've had a lot of folks coming on to talk about passwordless in the past. We talked a bit about how FIDO2 is coming out soon. I often talk about my frustration with I don't even have them near me. But this is the whole problem. I hate security keys. I'm sorry. You make a very good product. I personally find too much friction, too much stress trying to find my keys. I remember I'm a product manager and we do a lot of stuff in AWS. I do a lot of testing with our product. And I needed to get into my AWS console, and I had walked, and it's a 20-minute walk for me to get to my nearest Starbucks, and left my security key at home. Couldn't log in. It's so frustrating. Also because some of it's self-inflicted too, because you don't want to have just one security key. I've actually had a security key snap off in the socket, in the USB socket. Whoa. On me. So you could easily lose one, put it through the wash, whatever. So you definitely want more than one. And so I've really screwed myself over. And some of the services I have only use one key. In my password database, I try and put like the color of the key in parentheses next to the name of the password entry in my database. And that helps. But yeah, sometimes I'm sitting there like shoving. I've got 4 different keys and I'm shoving each one in, and it's like, nope, not that one. Nope, not that one. Login timed out.
Given all the trouble that you've had with it, Adrian, given all the trouble that you've had with it, would you consider the keys still worth even doing, or should we be switching over to biometric or, multi-factor, 2-factor and using your phone or something like that?
I think one of the lovely things about multi-factor is that there are multiple factors. You can choose. I know tons of people that absolutely love their YubiKeys. They love security keys. If you ask them to name their top 3 security technologies, I know people would just say security keys, security keys, security keys.
Wow.
So I wouldn't want to take those away from them. Like if it works for your workflow, fine. But for some people, myself included, maybe the specific situation, like if it's a retail situation or something like that, it's just not logistically feasible, to have to use security keys, but it's good to have it there as an option, right? So like for Google, if I don't, and a lot of it comes into, I guess part of the conversation they're going to have in this video coming up is how you implement it. So some like GitHub if you put in a security key, I don't think it allows you to fall back to a different form of MFA, even if you have like token codes or like a push authentication or something like that. But like it defers to the security key, and if you don't have a security key, you're out of luck.
You're toast. You're toast.
Whereas with Google, I can say, look, I just don't have my key on me. Like there's a button I can say choose other option, and it gives me like 20 more options. Like Google gives you so many options.
And what's your thoughts, Adrian? What's your take and thoughts on the biometric? Like, with the Macs now, you got the fingerprint readers built in, and many other laptops too. But I have a Mac, so I just know that one for certain. But you have the fingerprint reader built in. You can connect your authentication directly to it, your credit cards to it. You can have it autofill based on the biometric off your finger. What are your thoughts on biometrics?
Yeah, no, I think it's fantastic. I use biometrics on several of my laptops. I use it on my phone. I've used both, the biometrics in the Apple ecosystem and Windows Hello. Which it's nice that Windows Hello can be, a fingerprint, face read, whatever. Like you've got a bunch of different options with it, and it works with websites.
Why do we need physical keys? Then why do we need physical keys if we got one right here?
Yeah, I know, right? It's that's a good question. That's a good question.
So that's what's always really, I think, stumped me about the UB keys or the keys, the physical keys in general. Is if I literally have it right here, and I've got this thing right here,
right,
and that's all I need to do. I just don't understand the need for anything else physical. And even if we were to take it one step further, back when I was covering cybersecurity for Forrester years and years ago, there was the promise of I forget what they were calling it, but 100-point authentication technology, where how you hold your phone, or you're right-handed, left-handed, your fingerprint, your version, all hundreds and hundreds of data points that can get 5 nines of accuracy on your identity without even having to authenticate with your fingerprint, right? Like just based off of how you use your phone every single day. Why have we not gotten to that future state where we don't have to worry about authenticating to anything?
Yeah. I mean, I followed a couple of those companies, and there was some. They had some problems developing the product. I think there are some products on market that do that. But yeah, certainly just putting your finger down, is pretty easy, or unlocking your phone and hitting yes on something. But 100%, the points you're making, that's been my argument this whole time. Like, I'm gonna have my smartphone with me. Like, why do I have to go back? I lived back through the times when we had hardware RSA keys, and I don't want yet another thing on a keychain to bring around. If we finally got rid of those, like, why are you bringing it back? So I think
even the concept though of opening up a Duo or the two-factor auth thing on your phone, I just don't even understand that. I have to do that for a handful of my apps too. Why can't I just swipe my finger on the device and have it auto auth and auto pass those codes through appropriately?
Yeah. I mean, for some of mine,
exist for some applications, and I think in terms of the key, like the YubiKey, what I've noticed is that there's a certain segment of the security population who like the idea of having this external thing. And to them, it's more of a status thing, like, oh, if you're really, really serious about security, use this. And I've noticed that within certain communities. In terms of biometric, I think as far as consumerization goes, that's been pushing the envelope a lot more, and we have it on more of our consumer grade devices. So, I don't know why I can't just swipe my finger for everything, but I do know that for a number of my apps, both personal and business, it says, hey, do you want to use Touch ID to authenticate? And I always go, yep, please, let's do that.
Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, and it's I think what I was saying, FIDO2, if I understand it correctly, will allow your phone to function as a security key. So I mean, I don't know how exactly that works. If like a Bluetooth connection between your phone and your computer or something like that, or if it's again like a push notification, just works the same way a security key would. But yeah, I mean, it might be worth having somebody come on, like there's somebody screaming at their driving in their car, listening to this podcast, pointing out some specific scenarios that we've overlooked where security keys are the cat's meow. Absolutely reach out to us. Let us know, like, who do we need to have on, to correct us here. But yeah, I mean, I just, the smartphone can do a whole lot. We're already carrying 2 devices, laptop, smartphone. That's I can't imagine, all but like the most top secret cases, where, that's not sufficient.
Yeah, I agree completely. I would love to hear from any audience members, listeners, et cetera, that say, hey, this is the 1 spot or the 2 spots you have to use it. But to me, and we've even interviewed, or at least talked about, I believe, from the funding segments of the news show that we do, companies that were funded to actually enable generic websites to authenticate via fingerprint from your phone. Right. So like APIs that actually authenticate back to the phone, and, finding out ways to do that to ease the burden of the end user is going to absolutely just make authentication much more stronger, right? Stronger in general.
Yeah, I mean, it's pretty common to see login with Google, login with Facebook, login with Apple, those kind of consumer single sign-on situations. And yeah, certainly with I've used several neobanks now, at least 3 neobanks now, and most of them really get that balance between usability, because with a banking service, you need to be able to support everybody. It's not like you can't put the same rules in place you would with employees, and right, you're competing for their business, right? So they can just move to something that's easier to use. So it's interesting to see this on the consumer side as well. I don't think we'll really see consumers ever using security keys, but certainly, leveraging the smartphone, to log on to websites and things like that. I think we'll definitely see.
So yeah, I'm actually looking forward to watching the interview for actually something a little bit different, right? Because I think it's pretty straightforward and logical to talk about biometrics as a single source of authentication using a mobile device becoming the strongest authentication method that we use. Maybe not strongest in a crypto sense, but strongest in a most frequently used to alleviate the password pain. But one thing that they're going to talk about that I can't wait to hear more color on is the use of QR code-based authentication. That's a concern. That's a question to me. How does that become a viable and usable form of authentication?
Yeah, that I don't know. I'm familiar mainly with QRs being used, for links to websites, things like that. Like, it's just amazing with the pandemic and people not handing out menus at restaurants anymore. How many more QR codes, we see on a regular basis these days. But yeah, I've not seen it used for authentication, but yeah, it should be interesting. I think we've got all the hardware, we've got all the tools, we've got all the protocols we need to make things both secure and almost frictionless. It's I think just getting the stuff out there. Like, one of the most interesting things I heard from one of the interviews we did earlier this year was somebody saying that removing the password, literally removing the text string password, the old school text string password, and only having other factors of authentication freaked a bunch of people out on the consumer side. Like, it made the service feel less secure because for their entire lives, there's always been a password to things.
Yeah, I'm going to start the movement of no more passwords. Everything should be password banned, passwordless, mobile auth, biometric auth, single source auth, whatever the correct terminology of the day is. Let's just kill the password in everything that we do permanently.
Amen. And with that, thanks so much, Katie and Tyler, for joining me today.
Thanks for having us.
I was going to let Katie speak first. Thanks for having us, Adrian. Good to see you again.
Absolutely. And big thanks to everybody watching or listening. At this point, we will queue up the interview between Bradley and Zain. And take it away, Gus.
Hi there, everyone. This is Bradley Barth with SC Media. I'm Director of Community Content. And this is part of our Black Hat 2022 coverage. I'm here today with Zain Malik. He is Senior Product Marketing Manager at Ping Identity. Zain, so glad you could be with us today. And I wanted to just talk to you a little bit about some of the trends in the identity and access management space, since obviously that is right in the wheelhouse of Ping. So coming into this show here late in the summer of 2022, coming into Black Hat and DEF CON, what do you see as being some of the big trends right now in the IAM space?
Yeah, thanks, Bradley, for having me. So I think the key big trend that we're seeing in identity today is around passwordless authentication. Users are demanding better, more secure methods of authentication. For years, we've been tied to passwords, and now we have the technology to actually envision that passwordless future. So I think that's one key aspect. And then two is just a growing emphasis on identity, particularly within the B2C space. All the major leading brands in the world, Tesla, Apple, Google, to name a few, they're all really invested in their identity experiences. And now other brands want to replicate that, especially with, the post-pandemic world where your digital footprint is really the new main street, the new entry into your enterprise.
For sure. All right. Well, then let's take those two trends and do a little bit of a deeper dive on each of them. So passwordless, that can come in any number of forms. Do you see certain forms or formats of passwordless starting to emerge as the top contenders over other kinds?
Absolutely. So I think, we're all addicted to our phones. We all have phones in our pockets. Kids, even, in their early teens are having their own phones. So those phones are really equipped with biometrics. So either Face ID on your Apple phone or thumbprint on your Android phone. Those are really easy wins for organizations today to adopt passwordless because they're already built into the devices. That requires less development work. You can just leverage the device's operating system. The other thing that we're seeing a great appetite for is QR code. QR code is unique in that it offers you the ability to sign in using multiple devices. A common use case there is when you're logging into a new streaming service. For example, HBO Max, you get a new TV, you want to log in. If you have the app on your phone, you can just scan the QR code on the TV and be instantly logged in. I think we've all had that painful moment where we're trying to type in our emails and passwords using the interactive keyboard on the TV.
For both the QR codes that you mentioned and then the use of biometrics, there are all sorts of customer touch points if you're a business. So how do you determine which touch points work best for what kind of passwordless authentication technology? Is there, in certain cases, one universal solution for authentication that can bridge all of those touch points, or do you maybe have to do different techniques of authentication depending on what the touch point is?
Yeah, that's a great question. So as you mentioned, there's different user requirements, different touch points. You always need a fail-safe option. What we recommend now is that users or that companies make the knowledge-based question, the traditional password, that fail-safe option, in case you don't have access to your mobile phone, or in case you don't have a phone that can have a camera, because a lot of users, especially in the developing world, don't have those phones. And then the second part of your question was how do you kind of roll it out? And that is all around the ability to test the end user experience. That's something at Ping that we placed a great emphasis on, is not just having identity live in the background and be hard coded in as a solution, but the ability to work with the business and actually test an identity experience out. So you need the ability to segment your user base, maybe try to roll out a passwordless solution with a couple thousand users, and then the ability to test that and constantly iterate on it.
The second trend that you had mentioned is just seeing identity management technologies really being incorporated and integrated heavily into the B2C experience. And so if you are a business that does direct engagement with consumers, then how do you get consumers to see identity management and authentication and account verification as being a convenience, as being something that is going to be beneficial to the customer security, and not something that just seems like maybe a pain in the neck. I got to jump through these hoops.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think the one thing is consumers we inherently do this. I think we've all been there where we are trying to make a purchase. We get frustrated with the login experience and we just say, hey, we're going to jump ship. We're going to go to Amazon. That's why Amazon is the #1 retail company in the world. They just have a very easy identity experience. So customers will abandon registering for a site. They frankly don't want to register for new sites. They want to utilize a social login. You're much more likely to do that. And then they want that checkout process easier. So those are all identity experiences. And customers will leave if they have a bad experience. So they tell us with their wallets, in effect. And then the other aspect of identity is really how do we make sure that we keep users' information private? How do we make sure that we keep users safe? Users want that. I mean, if you look at Apple, for example, they've done a whole marketing campaign now for multiple years all around privacy. They are abandoning the old school way of advertising through cookies now. They're blocking cookies, and advertisers are trying to figure out a way around that. So they're one of the most valuable brands in the world. Anyone who's an Apple customer is fanatical almost. I'm an Android customer personally, but I still have my MacBook Pro, and I don't think I'll go off that computer. So I think if you look at these top brands, they're providing that secure experience, but also making it frictionless.
It makes sense that companies specializing in the tech space like that would be at the forefront of this, whether it's passwordless or other kinds of identity management type technology. What other industry sectors would you identify as being leaders in the IAM space right now, and being a little more willing to get out there on the cutting edge and expose their consumers and customer base to that kind of technology and experience?
Yeah, I think the two that stand out to me is one, banking. So banking, digital experience, they realized identity from the forefront, mainly because they're tying in multiple services. So you have your banking service, you have maybe your mortgage, maybe a brokerage account. That's all an identity experience. They have to make sure that you are authorized with those various services, and make sure your money is safe. Also, banks have deep pockets. So they can invest in that. The other area where we've seen is actually the insurance space, because insurance providers are fighting for customers, and they have really invested in taking a lot of the traditionally what was done over the phone or even fax online, and made it all about user experience. If you look at any of the big car companies, car insurance companies, Geico, Prudential, State Farm, etc., you can go through the whole process of creating an account with them online. One other area that sticks out to me is healthcare. Healthcare has a lot of unique requirements, a lot of unique regulations, but especially through the COVID era, we have seen a lot of investment in healthcare centric identity.
We've spent some time now talking about the B2C space and these various IAM applications for your consumers. And so clearly in your mind, you're seeing a lot of exciting innovation and application of that technology on that side of the equation. But I feel like I would be remiss if I didn't at least ask you about the more B2B side of things in terms of organizations, again, using identity management technology for their own internal access management, their employees, their contractors, their third-party partners, and everything. Are we still seeing more innovation, and are things still trending in that space a little bit, or is that area, maybe has a little bit more kind of stayed status quo, and the customer IAM is where we're starting to see a lot more movement?
Yeah, I would say more innovation is occurring in the customer market, because in the customer market, you are traditionally replacing a homegrown system, which just couldn't scale or couldn't meet security requirements. Whereas employee identity or workforce identity, it's been around for quite some time. Now you have your legacy players like Broadcom, CA Technologies, Oracle, for example, and they've been replaced by solutions from like Ping, Okta, et cetera. The one shift we're seeing in workforce is just like every other part of workforce cybersecurity, which is zero trust. Identity is foundational to zero trust, because you're not relying on network traffic, you're relying on the actual person, and you have to identify them, obviously. But I want to bring it actually back to passwords. I mean, if you look at the last two big cybersecurity attacks that we've had in the nation, one which was SolarWinds, and the other one which was the Colonial Pipeline. One was ransomware, one was malware, but they started as identity attacks. They got access by cracking someone's password. So organizations in the workforce still have to adopt simple things like multi-factor authentication. And that's a step towards passwordless. So criminals love going after passwords, not because they're hard, and in fact, the opposite. They're the easiest and least effort ways of hacking a company.
We have maybe just about a minute or two left. So I just want to kind of piggyback off of your premise of talking about how identity really is, in many cases, central to a lot of current cybersecurity philosophies, such as zero trust. I want to let's sort of do a pretend game here, where I'm putting you in the shoes of a CISO at an organization that basically is pitching a new cybersecurity plan that is very much centered and focused around identity. So if you're basically pitching identity as the crux of all of the zero trust philosophy that you want to introduce into your organization, that's going to sort of be the central tenet of your security awareness training and your cybersecurity architecture moving forward, what's maybe the most important point to convey about identity to your upper management that need to approve any kind of a project like that?
Yeah, absolutely. So I guess the key point is the traditional way is not working anymore. We are working in numerous places. We have many more devices than ever before, and our users are everywhere. The shift has to go to zero trust, and you cannot trust what you can't identify. It's simple as that. You can't trust what you can't identify.
Well put. So that's great, and I think we've just about run out of time. But once again, I want to thank my guest here today, Zain Malik, Senior Product Marketing Manager at Ping Identity. Thanks so very much. You gave us plenty to chew on here at the Black Hat Conference. And stay tuned and be sure to look for additional coverage from the Black Hat and DEF CON conferences here on the SC Media website. Until later, this has been Bradley Barth with SC Media. Have a safe day online.